They tried to give me this big tent uniform to wear for pregnancy women. I took my skirt and cut it down the front, put my apron right on, and still got to wear a uniform. And I was cook line boss.
Denny's?
Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't really run as much because we had two false alarms at Denny's. I'm standing at the cook line. I'm like, oh my God, everybody, wait a minute. So we go run into the hospital, false alarm. 2 more weeks pass. Oh my God. Oh my God. To the hospital we went. 3rd false alarm. So 3 weeks before you were born, I called up the manager and I said, I can't come back to work. I would stand in the window and all the girls be standing around and you'd go, I need hash brown. I go, get off there. So I would set the trays up for the girls and they'd run the food. And I made like $9 an hour in 1990, 92, 93, which was a lot of money back then. And plus made a lot of tips in Miami Beach. And from the time I moved with your dad, even though he knew I made so much money and everything, he said, you just give me half the rent. I go, happy to give him half the rent, $400. In the whole 13 years we were married, he only took $400 a month from me. Then I got those credit cards. He said, be careful with them credit cards. I go, yeah. I'd take you to the mall. We'd go into that limited to. I said, get what you want. And I said, go get what you want. We went everywhere. We'd go to Macy's. I had a wallet you could drop to the floor and all the credit cards would show. And I said, where are we going today, Trinity? He said, let's go to Penny's. Let's go to Macy's. Let's go everywhere we went. I mean, swipe that card. That's how you got your beautiful smile from a credit card.
Really?
I paid the minimum payment for it. And your brother is jealous to this day that I did not take him to the dentist like I did you. To this day, he blames me for his teethies.
Is that why you were so good on my teeth from him? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, because
I
he
was
bitched at you?
very irresponsible with him. I was so young when I had him.
How old were you when you had him?
14.
14?
3 months before I turned 15. And his dad was just a little twerp. As big as me. I could wear his shoes. I could wear his jeans, his shirts. And he had long hair to his shoulders. And he wore a bandana on his head.
Terry's dad?
Mm-hmm. And he'd ride a bike all the time. He came to your grandmother's door and knocked on the door. He said, I'm Charlie. I'm the baby's father. She said, yeah, you're him? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. He says, I want to marry her. She said, have you lost your mind? She said, I'll have 3 children then. You, her, and the baby. Said, my baby's got a baby. So, you were born. Terry was born. And your grandma took over immediately. I didn't know how to change a diaper. First time I changed his diaper, he peed right in my face. I didn't know what to think about it. Little boys do that when they're newborns. And your grandma kind of took over and became nanny. She didn't want to be called grandma. She was called nanny. You're the only person ever called her grandma. And she allowed it. She was nanny, though, to Terry Lee. And I met this guy. Terry was like 3 years old. I'd never lived with any guy before or anything like that. I was just turned 18. And this guy wanted me to come and live with him. And I went to my mom and I said, I'm 18 and I'm going to move with my boyfriend. She said, you can do anything you want, but you're not taking this baby. Under no circumstances. I was like, what? I said, you need to give me my baby. She said, no. She said, call the cops if you want. I said, I'm not going to call the cops on my mother. And she said, you're not taking this baby. He was 3. I was gone 2 weeks. Came back to 95th and Collins, 9551 Collins Avenue, right across from Saks Fifth Avenue and all that in North Miami Beach. And I came back to the hotel and Mom was gone. She went back to Kentucky and took Terry with her. So I got a job, my first job at Woolworths, dime store. And I'd send your grandma $150 every week for Terry. Every week, like clockwork. And she kept Terry. So I turned 19 and a half. And I called her up and said, I want Terry. She said, you can't take this baby from me. He's all I got. Da, 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 da. I said, look, I'm grown. I make a decent living. And I want to be a mother. And I love my child. And I want him. I said, either you send him to me or I will come and get him on an airplane. 3 days pass. Lisa! I said, did you hear that? My husband said, somebody's screaming your name down on the street. I go down on the street. I look out the window and it's your grandma. And she's got Terry Lee there with her. He's 4 years old. When he saw me, he was so shy. He was like, I said, come here. Come to mommy. He was so shy. He was like, came to me. And my mom said, well, this is how you're going to live? And I said, yes, this is how we're going to live. So we got a beautiful apartment. We let my grandmother stay with us for 3 months, saved to get an apartment. She got a job, all of that. I was with this guy off and on for 3 years. And then he started becoming abusive. Terry hated him.
His dad?
No, my first husband that I met, he was from Nicaragua. And he was so mean to me and would sling me around and just make awful domestic violence stuff. And one day I said, I got to get away from him. So I waited till he was at work. I got me 3 cooks and 3 waitresses. We pulled up with the moving truck and I said, my girlfriend's going, are these your cassettes? I said, take anything you want. We're loading this shit up on the truck. I took the furniture. I took everything I wanted from the apartment. We're getting the last thing out, the love seat. And that door elevator opens and it's him. And we're all like, I'm like, my friend, she was big. She jumps in front of me. I say, you bitch, put your hands on me. And he's like, I'm not going to touch you, Kelly. She said, oh, but you'll rip her clothes off of her and come and yank her out of jobs and do this and do that. Do that to me. She started pushing him. So meantime, I'm pulling the love seat as fast as I can into the elevator. And we jetted. Got away from him. He wouldn't leave me alone. I got a restraining order on him. He wouldn't give me a divorce. I filed for divorce. Terry was 8 years old, filed for divorce, and he wouldn't stay away. I had to get a restraining order on him. But he finally left us alone. And then I met Ricky. All your life, your mother has left one man for another. Bad track, bad pattern. Very bad pattern. I left Emilio Caesar for myself because he was mistreating me really bad.
Who?
Caesar was his name. He was from Nicaragua. His real name was Emigdio. E-M-I-G-D-I-O, Emigdio. And your brother hated him.
Charlie Mashmeyer? Or
Charlie Marlowe was my first love.
Mm-hmm.
And Becky hated him. She said, God, that boy's ugly. She said, look in the mirror. She put me in the mirror and said, look at yourself. Now look how ugly he is. Every time I tried to break up with him, he started crying. And I felt so sorry for him that every time I tried to break up, he wouldn't let me. And I said, he's crying though, Becky. She said, let him shit bullets. She said, you need to get rid of him. So then I tried to get, that ain't working, Trina. Yeah, this sucker's gonna come off. Went to get child support for Terry Lee. And he booked it to the state of Florida. And I found him when Terry turned 9 years old.
Is that how you came to Florida?
No, we came to Florida.
When?
19...
Wait, you're in Kentucky? You're in Kentucky with this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys he comes to Florida and then you come to Florida?
Yes, but we didn't come to be with him. We came to move to Florida. Because ever since I was that high, your grandma Esther would be on the phone. Back then you called 1-555-1212. That's like calling 411 today. And she'd call and say, Mashmeier, Maschmeier. Mashmeier. She's looking all over Florida for her children. I watched my mother at 15 years old just with a bottle next to her bed and just didn't care about nothing, trying to find these children. And she always said, we're going to move to Florida. We're going to move to Florida. I turned 16 and a half and she said, we're out of here. And that's the best thing your grandma Esther ever did for your mother, was get her out of Kentucky.
Why?
Because all my friends are dead or overdosed or have AIDS. I got 2 friends left. I was leader. I was very popular at school. They said everybody wants to hang around with Lisa Mashmeier. And but most of my friends are dead and gone and got on drugs. And I told Becky, I said, best thing Mom did was get me out of here. I might have ended up dead. She said, no, you wouldn't have. She said, you would have been with me. She said, I wouldn't have let that happen. So every couple of years, when he lets me, I go to Kentucky. But I didn't get to go last year, and didn't get to go this year. Because all the goes through him. So you're saying, why don't I walk to Walmart? But BJ became a manager at Denny's. And he's sitting down with the big boss. The first day there, getting interviews, signed all the paperwork and everything. He said, you see these girls? He said, yeah. He said, you see that one? Point it to me. He said, never. But you can have any one of them you want, but not her. She's our number one. She's part of management team. She does all the training. And you can't be anything with her. Well, I would get cleaned up when we lived at the Wade. What was the name of that complex we lived at, Trina? That fancy complex?
Was it the Waves?
No, we lived at the Waves when we were with your daddy. But the apartment me and you lived in
North Lauderdale?
in Lauderdale.
I don't remember the name of the complex.
It was fancy though. And he told him, not her. So I didn't have anything to do. You'd be gone with your daddy on the weekends. Every weekend you'd go with your daddy. And I was off Saturday and Sundays. And I would get off and go pick up little Jeff. When little Jeff was born, I'd take him every single weekend. But when I didn't have him, I'd get dressed up and I'd go to Denny's to hang out. BJ be cooking back there. He's a manager, but he's back there cooking. And he said, wait. He said, wait. And all of a sudden, somebody puts a big plate of food in front of me. It's nothing that we sell. It's chopped up steak and vegetables and all this. I'm eating. I'm like, this is yummy. So the third time that I came in there, he said, when you going to be with me? And I could call in work anytime I wanted because he was the manager. I'd call in 2 o'clock in the morning, supposed to be there at 5, and say, can you please tell them, Mr. BJ, that I called last night? He'd say, okay. So he let me slide. So one day, he's working, and I go to see him, and he's coming into the restaurant in the daytime and seeing me and bringing me Paris Hilton perfume and things like that, and $10 tips. And one day he just told me, he says, when are you going to be mine? And I walk into the office and kicks the door shut and pulls me on his lap and says, when are you going to be mine? I said, you couldn't handle me. I'm a mess. I said, when you get rid of her,